financing your next billion. Gain insights into successful engagements with venture capitalists and investors. Get ahead of industry trends, hear from industry leaders, influencers, founders, policymakers, and governments. Stay in the know on how to finance your next billion.
Everyone, we're here again with another episode of Financing Your Next Billion Talks. I'm Yvonne Gamble, I'm your host, and I'm also the Executive Director of Women Leading Change Now. We are right in the midst of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, 69, and the main focus is to review and appraise the implementation of the Beijing Declaration in 1994. And that was done at the 23rd session, even before that. And what we're trying to do now is we're stopping here at the 5-year mark because that has goals that have to be reached by 2030 for women and for girls worldwide. And we're stopping here to do a check-in to see where we are, how close we are to goals, and what types of things we need to do going forward. I have with me today a very esteemed guest, a friend of mine, Kate Tuitt, and she is a member of the British Empire. She's also a delegate of the UN Women in the United Kingdom. And she's going to give us a little bit of information about what they did and, how they were able to listen in and how some of them actually did attend.
So I was selected this year by the United Nations Women UK, UN Women UK, for the CSW 68 Commission on the Status of Women, which is being held in New York as we speak.
Yes.
And I'm in London because I didn't attend. And as you know yourself, the delegates, we get to attend the preliminary sessions and to listen to the General Secretary, give his address, Antonio Banderas.
Kate, welcome to the show.
Hi, greetings everyone from sunny London. I'm over in Inner Temple near the River Thames. I can see the River Thames right through my window here. So hello Chicago and hello USA.
Well, great. That is so wonderful. So what can you tell us? What happened first with the UN Women in the UK? What did you all do to just kind of welcome or to open up the sessions with the United Nations Commission this year?
So this year, we opened up the session last week, and those of us who were privileged enough to be selected as delegates by the UN Women UK, we were able to join online the opening sessions by the Secretary General, Antonio Banderas, and also to listen to some of the women leaders of their countries around the world. Obviously, there's a number of countries around the world that have women prime ministers or women presidents, like Mexico, Barbados, and so on. And so we were able to listen to some of their contributions and some of the women ministers and listen to what they were proposing they would be doing for their citizens in regards to alleviating things like poverty and women's economic empowerment, curtailing femicide and domestic violence. And there was lots of discussions which were really interesting, like women farming, smallholder farmers, and women and girls education. So it was really interesting and very inspiring, and particularly African contributions and Asia, where they were trying to really address some of the difficulties that professional women are having in healthcare, working as doctors and so on, um, and being subject to threats while they're at work and harassment. Women doctors and pediatricians and so on, find it difficult to do their jobs, saving lives while they're under risk from people coming to the hospital, and looking at security and things they could use, personal devices, CCTV, things which could help them in their everyday working life. So it's very interesting.
Okay, that does sound very interesting. So, I mean, and it sounds like just in your work, could you just share with us a little bit, how does your work that you do actually help to bring about, lasting change? What types of things are you seeing on the forefront that would put, things in place, just as some of these other country leaders are doing? Now, let's just kind of pare it down to the work that you actually do. What are you seeing, and what are you seeing, has gone on here in the last few years, and what do you see could go on in the next 5 to 10 years?
So what we're seeing is a growth in awareness um, since the um, Me Too movement in education, and particularly in colleges and higher education sector. You're seeing a lot more women and girls entering higher education and colleges, particularly those where um, English is their second or other language. So we're seeing a lot more women also taking up STEM courses in education. Where I work in a college, you're seeing women more and girls more applying for science, technology, engineering, and those things where they've been underrepresented. The future, the future bridge builders, like we've got these great bridges, haven't we, in London, Tower Bridge and so on, and London Bridge, but obviously they're all built by men. So we're seeing a lot more women applying to do civil engineering and structural engineering and science and technology, which is great because obviously we'll start to see a difference in our built environment. Because the built environment, as you know, when you walk around, like in Chicago or wherever you go in the world, that's really important for safety and how the streets are, where buildings are, um, how streets are designed. They're mainly designed, the town planners and the city planners have historically been men. So they're mainly like designed not with women in mind. So this is going to have a real impact in 100 years. I know it's quite a long time, but it's starting to have an impact already. Where I was as a local councillor, we used to make decisions on planning on streets and lighting and so on, and how we would plan our roads and our estates, the new ones we were building. And so when you have women inputting into that, you really get a different perspective. Because, like in America, we have lots of canals and rivers that run through our cities and towns. And a lot of women, these are beautiful spaces, but a lot of women and girls don't feel safe to walk in those areas, the Regent's Canal in London and so on at night. So we're looking at how we can make these spaces accessible for everyone, and nobody should feel that they can't, walk on the streets and enjoy all the public spaces. So it's great that girls and women are getting involved in design and technology and engineering, mechanics.
Okay, that sounds like you're looking to build more smart cities where you can have, some type of surveillance, that's there, and then
But
that way.
yeah, I'm not fully persuaded on too much of the surveillance culture. Both here in the UK and in America, we just have so much surveillance, and it's misused, isn't it? It's misused by the authorities. They watch everything we do, and many people don't have a private life. And now, my friend who's in the audience with me today, you may be able to see him. He told me about there's a new law coming out where they're going to be able to have access to all our devices. So, all our friends across the world, all of our details, all of our private family photographs, for example. And that really worries me. So, yes, smart cities to a certain extent, but not if it's too intrusive. People are entitled still to have their privacy.
By 2050, our planet will be a vastly different place. By 2050, artificial intelligence will be everywhere. AI-driven stores will allow you to purchase goods without cashiers or waiting lines. AI will diagnose and treat patients, manage transportation, and analyze massive quantities of data. AI chatbots and voice recognition systems will sound like and behave just like real people. AI will be implemented into robots. By 2050, robot dogs and other pets will serve as companions. Robots will dominate factories and begin to serve as teachers, cooks, pharmacists, law enforcement officers, athletes, and other professionals. In 2050, universal translators will remove all language barriers and voice recognition will be ubiquitous. Hundreds of sensors will be installed in our clothes, homes, and overall environment to monitor our well-being and improve our lives. Computing will change. By 2050, we may run on quantum computers. Based on the properties of quantum physics, quantum computers could deliver massive leaps in computing power, outstripping any current transistor-based models. AI and computers will integrate into humans. Brain chips like Elon Musk's Neuralink will treat neurological disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, spinal cord injury, and blindness. These brain chips will allow people to control computers and prosthetics with no physical interaction. By 2050, we may be controlling things with our minds and communicating through brain signals. By 2050, robotic prosthetics may be stronger and more advanced than our own biological ones. Prosthetic eyes and ears will enter the market, curing blindness and deafness. And in 30 years, like AI, virtual reality will be everywhere. People will try on clothes in virtual reality closets, and holograms will bring FaceTime to a new level. VR platforms will allow you to move around while staying still. We will be able to travel the world and experience life on other planets, all from home.
Well, those are going to be some things when we look about going forward and we look at this continuous adaptation where we're going to have to, like you said, things are going to be changing. And now, if he brought into the conversation that says that now they can go into the cloud and take your pictures, get your conversations, have your information. So we're going to have to figure out, how do we adapt this? We want safety, and yet we want no one to see where we are. So yeah, that adapting to that and adapting to that change is going to be pretty tough. I
It
want
is.
to What do you
People
think?
train now. There's very smart people out there. There's really intelligent young people, the next generation, who are really smart, and they especially people with neurological conditions, and people with Asperger's syndrome and autism. They're really quite smart, and they really hold the key to some of these things, because they're very good at things like mathematics and
Mhm.
engineering and formula and calculations. And so we need to get everyone involved, and there's people out there who will be able to get that balance, I think, for us over the next generations.
Okay, well, I like that. Well, looking forward to, because that's you hit a trigger for me, 100 years. Looking forward 100 years. I want to say, are we trying to? We've been working on this thing, trying to do this equality, and have men, women, girls, all that on equal footing, boys, what have you, and we really haven't. We've pushed the needle somewhat, but we're still. It's like we're pushing. We're in an uphill. It's like we're pushing the box up the hill, but the hill keeps getting further, bigger and bigger. Uh, and I know in several industries where here in the United States, in our telecommunications industry specifically, we did not go for when we wanted to make the large telecom corporations, and for them to be on equal footing with the smaller telecom. We didn't go for equality, we went for parity of service, meaning that what was done to one side had to also be done to the other side. And so therefore, if they were all in the communications, if I went to AT&T and I wanted to start service, and that took 3 days, and then I went to a little small company like Cricket and wanted to start service, that should also take 3 days. It should not take 30, 40 days, because then that would obviously drive the smaller company out of business. So I'm asking the question of everyone, all my guests, and that is equality or parity. What do you think is really going to get us to basically put this behind us and we're now working together?
Okay, so obviously, not everyone starts at the same place, so they may not have the same skill set. So it's quite difficult. It depends what the employees of an organization have working for them. So you would really need to invest first to train people to have that skill set so they could be on parity. Um, and a lot of, because we're talking about obviously the UN CSW 68, a lot of women and girls wouldn't yet have those skills to be on parity yet. So, and they may not want to choose those particular industries, but I think that it's a good idea to an extent, and I tell you why. Because it has it means that there is standards, a certain standard that you can expect from each organization or each company or each business, if everybody has the same on parity and everyone has the same standards and regulations. And it also drives up standards if people have the same. You spoke about telecommunications. One of the members of the audience here, well, the only member of the audience here, has a background in telecommunications, so I'm sure they would agree. And so people would need to be trained and put investment into their skills before they could have parity. So in that sense, you do need to have some sort of equity before parity, because they're not going to be able to run and think on their feet straight away and have those skills to do jobs which are required unless they get investment to be trained, because education is expensive, and especially in the developing world, and you still have elitism, and you still have education shouldn't depend on someone's background and whether they can afford, or their parents can afford, to send their child to school or to university, because you've got a number of very bright young people, both boys and girls, who can't get access. There's barriers and those barriers should be removed to education, because they have the ability, but they're just barriers placed in front of them. I went to a state school, and which is not a fee-paying school, and my mum couldn't afford that because obviously my father died, but I still had the ability to to achieve things. But if my mum had to pay, so there's not enough scholarships um, in for universities in both the UK and America for people to be on parity, and so you can't be on par and unless you have the training and the skills and the education, and unless they remove the barriers like the financial barriers, for example, then that's going to be quite difficult to achieve.
What happens when a group of the world's greatest minds gifted with wealth beyond our imagination buys a sprawling waterfront property in Toronto? They make plans for a $14.3 billion futuristic city, that's what. Sidewalk Labs released its Master Innovation and Development plans to turn a chunk of Toronto's Lake Ontario shoreline into the most futuristic city in the world. It would result in over 93,000 jobs and a better standard of living for its residents. And today, we're going to take a peek inside. Welcome back to our channel. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a video from us. Google X Sidewalk Smart City.
Well, that gives us something to work towards and a very good path. I like the way you laid that out to work towards it. Remove the barriers, achieve the parity in education so that everyone is educated. I really do believe that one of the things that is actually going to bringing that in, and that is that the advent of AI with artificial intelligence. That is something that is in addition to, us learning, what we're having to do in our jobs and being more educated, in our businesses and that sort of thing. Now, AI basically, it forces everyone to be on par because now you're all learning that at the same time together. So something like that is definitely going to bring up the standard of education. And I think we can work towards exactly what you said, removing those financial barriers so that everyone has access, because we can't ask the people, or expect, I should say, the people to utilize AI, to utilize it at the fullest, and then yet at the same time not give them access to it. So I like exactly what you're saying. What I would like to do now is,
And I just wanted to give a little comment on that, Yvonne. AI is also creating some ripples, isn't it? There's some resistance because people feel they're going to be put out of a job, and especially in the creative industries, like obviously I write, so here's one of my books. Don't know if you can see this one. So,
will give us the title. Give us the title of that. It says Voices.
This one is Voices of the 21st Century: Conscious Caring Women Who Make a Difference. And I talk about like life planning and things like, making a will, and just protecting your legal rights and so on. Obviously I talk about that with
Okay. Where can we okay and so
in Walmart, and so I heard it's in Walmart because I had some guy email me from some army saying he saw it in Walmart, from the American army, whoever that is, and so it's in all your stores. And but for writers and people in the creative industry like yourself, because obviously I've read one of your books as well, which is great. Screenwriters, playwriters, Hollywood was on strike. They were marching about film scripts going to be written by AI. So there's a lot of anxiety which it's creating as well. And where I work at the moment in college, I always encourage the students not to use too much AI. Obviously, you know, you can use it to research because it gives them more access, like you were saying. If they can't, I mean, not everyone can go to Oxford and Cambridge or Yale and Harvard, can they? So, but then it means that they might not be using their intellectual muscle.
Exactly. And we cannot become dependent. We cannot depend on AI to do it for us. That's a misnomer that AI can't think for the human, because then it becomes even when you have it right. Right now they have actually a cottage industry that pays quite well, but it pays people to train AI. So, there's questions that are asked in certain industries, and
I
then
would like,
it's asking you, what is the answer to these questions? It's asking the humans, what are the answers to these questions? And it breaks it down into every single field that it is. So therefore, doctors could go on there and give their information, lawyers, telecom, everybody is needed. So therefore, when you see that, the database is then basically what you're doing is you're doing almost a brain dump. What now AI knows, but think about it. You're not going to give it everything because you would just literally wear out trying to give it everything. And then not only that, in the human factor, we keep this in mind. Humans think. I may answer a question. I may say, what color are your earrings? And you'll tell me what color those earrings are, right? And then somebody else asks you, describe and you're going to say something different. To them, humans think and humans react to the particular question, the context that is surrounding that, and the person that they are talking to. So it's not just a rote, the earrings, are a diamond shape or a pearl or they're blue. It's not just that. And so therefore, the AI does not think in those terms. What do you think about that?
Yes, it's very impersonal, and it just is devoid of human feelings and emotion, isn't it? It might come in useful for a surgeon or something, if you're doing an operation, because they have to control their emotions anyway, and sometimes they don't. They, had a row in the morning with their wife or something, and then they had to go to surgery. So it might help in some certain circumstances. It may be safer than a human operating on someone, and they already do that, as you know, remotely. They remotely operate on people.
Yeah, they
around
have
the
the
world.
robotic arm that operates. And in order to be able to do that, what you have almost has to be what they call textbook. So in other words, whatever because sometimes it has to be, they have to, because the machine is programmed to do a certain operation. So if it goes in there and begins to find something else, it's not going to now, let me go over here and operate on this other artery that, may have burst. It's not. It's just going to do exactly what it was
They
programmed.
won't be able to react.
Right.
Get blood if the person needs a transfusion or one of their arteries bursts, or just something what happens, which that can happen because we're human.
Exactly.
And the robot won't be able to react. So you always need a human to be on standby. So which has self-redundant, but we can have a little bit of a rest, can't we? I know I'm looking forward to more AI, especially like to do things like cleaning and cleaning the windows, and
the things that are what we consider rote and routine. And in other words, the windows are cleaned this way, all the same way, all the time. The floors are done this way all the time. Yes, those types of things you most certainly can have, AI or
with
robotics to do that.
anyway, it has revolutionized um, women and girls' lives, hasn't it, since the 1950s or before? Things like washing machines
Mm-hmm.
and tumble dryers and so on, because and like dishwashers and
Yeah. And iRobot, that Roomba, the sweeper that now can move around through your house. I think my
yeah.
cat gets more work. I think the cat appreciates that Roomba robot rolling around more so than anybody else. He rides on it.
Cat runs after it.
The
We can
cat,
say
the cat learns how to turn it on, and now he riding around on the road. I was like, that's not the purpose of this.
you have to show me a video of that. That's sweet. Okay, but
So there.
it's so life a lot easier.
Welcome to the world of pre-seed funding, the initial phase of venture financing where entrepreneurs kickstart their startup journey. Pre-seed funding marks the beginning of the seed funding process, where entrepreneurs use their own resources to develop and grow their startup while seeking guidance and assessing viability. The primary aim is to assemble a team and create a minimum viable product, MVP, to showcase the product's potential and attract additional investment rounds. Startups at this stage typically have a valuation range of $10,000 to $100,000. Many entrepreneurs seek guidance from experienced founders to help them determine funding needs, create a successful business model, and gain insight into developing their plan into a functioning business. It's important to note that success is not guaranteed, and various risk factors must be taken into account when investing one's own resources into a startup. Pre-seed funding sets the stage for the exciting journey of turning an idea into a thriving business, but it's essential to navigate the challenges with careful planning and guidance.
Yeah, because obviously things have changed quite a lot. So in the next generation, I think you asked me at the start of this conversation, yeah, I think it will make life maybe different, certainly different for people in 50 years time, and they will have access to all these things what we don't, the same way as women in the 1920s, they before they had the vote and Pankhurst, and women couldn't be lawyers until 100 years ago. They weren't allowed to be barristers or doctors.
Right.
So things always change. They
So
never
that
stay the
continue.
same.
So that's a part of what I was asking you earlier about continuous adaptation. The world has to continue to adapt to the changing times, to just the changing mechanisms and methodologies, and especially now we're introducing in the artificial intelligence. That's going to introduce in another level. So now the roles of what we do and what we have to do are going to change. The women's role was thought of, they were going to be, at home doing the cooking, the cleaning, taking care of the children. And now you have a measure coming in through the AI robotics that are doing that. So now what? What will then be the role of women? Many robotics are taking.
So I guess that well, I don't know if that people are not going to marry a AI robot.
No. You don't have. I'm not saying that they marry them, but I'm just saying, just the roles, the things you're going to do.
I think that they're still not going to be able to cook as good as us, though, are they? Come on.
No, they're not. But what happens is this. You're right. They won't be able to cook as good as us, but the changing palate. You think about these types of things, the changing palate of mankind. Mankind's palate has changed tremendously with the GMO foods, the genetically modified organisms, the foods that are come in. And so now we're eating very, very differently than we did, say, 100 years ago. And 100 years later, that
has happened with that is, as you know, has been the increase in cancer and the increase in bowel cancer and other illnesses because of the change of our diet.
Mm-hmm.
So people are not eating like beans and pulses and oily, oily cod liver oil, omegas, and so on, because a lot of things are genetically modified. And because of the pace of life as well, and the expectation for people to perform so much because of the bosses, because of the management. And so a good idea could be to do your own company and be your own boss. And I've written a book about being your own boss as well, called I'm Not Bossy, I'm My Own Boss. And that's Catherine Tuitt, that book, if you look out for that. So you could work for yourself, because people are being asked to do excessive hours at work. They've not got time to cook and to eat fresh food, or to make things which are healthy for their body, their mind, and their spirit. And so, as you say, genetically modified food, we've seen in the health industry, as you know, when I my other little stint of career working in the National Health Service, and you see the growth of lots of illnesses, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, because of those patterns of like you say, over the last 100 years, changes in food that we eat, particularly if we live in urban areas.
Mm-hmm.
In London, in Chicago, in New York, all the main cities, there's a lot of fast food. In New York, I
Yes.
always go and buy fast food. And if a lot of people don't live in rural places where they can get fresh food, or near the sea where they can just go down and get some fresh fish from a fisherman or woman. So yeah, people's eating habits have changed, and as long as you're aware of that, and you can try and make changes. But there's an equality issue around that, and an equity issue, because a lot of the organic food is a lot more expensive, and so people who are on lower incomes, or just struggling, or may have single parents, or whatever their circumstances, they can't afford to buy the organic vegetables and organic
Well, I
fruits.
think that's by design. That's truly by design, because that they took and made it so that it costs more to process foods, or to even create a food chemically to make something, than it does to grow food, bring that to the market, and distribute that. And what many countries have done, unfortunately, and especially, here in the US, they have taken and paid the farmers not to farm.
Yes,
What
well,
do you
in the
think? So
UK,
therefore, when you're doing
there,
something like that to your population, you're literally driving out an industry, the fresh foods, as opposed to bringing in, as opposed to, embracing that, and,
can you,
making that because those fresh foods are far cheaper. It's far cheaper to do that than it is because a processing manufacturing plant, you have to figure, you're
oh,
running.
big industry which is driving this, isn't there? There's a multi-billion-pound industry which is driving the genetically modified um, food and dried food industry, which is making billions for corporates and individuals who are the shareholders of corporations. And the farmers are even protesting in the UK, but not about, actually not about the food what they produce as farmers. It's more about inheritance tax. But they have there is a move away from fresh food, and it's so expensive and yet it's so cheap to make. My grandfather, he used to have a farm, not in the UK, um, you know, and genetically modified food is so expensive, and dry food. And my mum, used to, before school, she used to milk the cows and everything, and they used to sell milk, and it's much less expensive, organic food.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's why I said that is another construct to drive out what's good for the body. And so therefore you literally, the question that happens is this, and the concern is the children and the children's children as the generations go. And like you said, you teach them, they should learn, they should know. Well, they will come a point in time, you go 4 generations down into the future, where they won't even remember what a farm is. A farm,
No,
the milking of cows, all the churning of butter, all that will
yeah,
be, oh wow, that's something different. This is something new. And
yeah,
people are doing that. I even saw a couple people on Instagram were showing you how you could make your own butter or what have you. And, some of the school kids were looking at that and they were thinking they were passing around thinking this was something just totally brand new. And this was that, oh my goodness, as though she had come up with, something nobody else had. She invented this, the making of butter. No, darling, that's how
I know.
butter was made
I,
long
I,
before, you could get it at the store. It's the way this is how, and this is what I'm saying. That's just a few
I know.
generations, and they're already, they've,
The thing you do have, like we have in the UK, you do have city farms in the middle of urban areas, but they're declining, and they're run by charities. We have city farms all dotted all over London, Hackney City Farm and Stepney City Farm and so on. And so we'll do visits. I mean, not so much the college. Sometimes the college goes down there, but schools and so on do visits. And I know in the States you have farms and you have ranches,
mhm.
and they should be open to the public, especially like all those wealthy people who own
These
all these.
farms are open to the public. These
I
farms
know,
are
I
open
know
to the
that.
public, and it's more like, when the people go, it's not the farm people. They're open. They want the people to come. They want you to bring your children. You come, buy their goods, buy whatever they have. The people
Yeah.
treat it almost like it's a novelty. It's another part. It's another big tent in the circus to go and see. Yeah, like, oh, we're gonna have an outing and go to the farm, like we're gonna have an outing and go to the museum, or we're gonna have an outing and go to the movies. They're not
Fresh.
thinking in terms of this is how we eat and this is how food is produced and how food is supposed to be produced. They're not telling their kids in that. They're like, this is, we're gonna go here and we're going to see these animals and the people would touch the animals. These kids haven't even touched an animal or a plant, a real plant.
It's sad, isn't it, that when you live, it is quite sad because in major cities we've just become so sterile and so removed from nature, um,
Hmm.
because it's just a concrete jungle, isn't it, out there?
Yes.
And it's really important that the teachers at the schools and so on, they take the children and the parents, obviously,
Hmm.
for to go for walks in nature and forests, And you've got some great forests out there in America. And, it's really important to get out your offices, get out into the wild, or whether, ranch or wherever it is, as long as you don't get shot by some landowner. But it's important to try and go and like explore with children, and just to get some, fresh air and get close to nature, because we're all just stuck behind computers too much and behind our desks or behind some book. Not my books, of course, mine are interesting, but some law book or some medicine book, the Lancet or whatever it is. So
Okay. Well, thank you. We can go on and on and on, but this is wonderful. And I just wanted to just kind of let's let's kind of wrap this up for the audience. So looking forward, looking into, I like your book that you have. Can you say that title, the one that's on your lap there? Can you say that title once again?
Yeah, sure. It's Voices of the 21st Century, and it's about women who are making a difference in the world. And we've got to still achieve those sustainable development goals, which the Beijing conference, the inspiring conference. Do you remember when Hillary Rodham Clinton said, women's rights are human rights?
Mm-hmm.
And we still have to look to address those sustainable development goals, and to also get support from our male allies, because most men are very supportive. They're not the enemy. They support women, and we can get a lot of encouragement and support from our brothers, our friends, our husbands, our colleagues. So we just think that, I think that it will just make the world much more beautiful for all of us if there was more opportunity for people to be happy doing what they would like to do, and not be put into a box and said, oh, you've got to be or whatever, like gender segregation. Oh no, you can't be an engineer, or you can't be an architect, or go to space, or whatever. Because women we've done all these roles, haven't we? And we can if we would
Yes.
like to. But I think it's about choice, isn't it? If you'd like to, we don't want to force anyone. If they don't want to, that's fine, that's cool. But if they would like to, it'd be good if we could give them the opportunity.
Okay, well, that's it. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for being a guest on FYMB Talks here at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women 69. We are so happy that you came and you graced us with your presence. We look forward to having you back. And if it's talking about financing your next billion, you will see us again. Look forward to seeing you at the next show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Financing your next $1 billion? Contact us to be a guest. Join us for the next show.